Hello everyone, my name is Melissa and welcome to my creative space. Whether this is your first time visiting or you're a returning viewer, I'm so happy to spend some time with you today talking about cross stitch and quilting and just taking time to be creative. I am so excited to spend a little time with you today. I have my tea here in my fall mug. You know, I am not a huge pumpkin spice latte girl. I love lattes, even with just a little bit of vanilla in it. But my sister sent me an advent calendar last year from the Republic of Tea that had, you know, a little window to open every day, and it had 2 little tea bags in it. And I got this pumpkin spice tea, and you know, it is very good. It's getting me in these, you know, in the fall vibes. The leaves are starting to change colors a little bit and the weather is cooling off, and here in New Mexico it's been really lovely. So I have some projects to show you today that I've been stitching on, some new starts, and even a little quilting things. Little spoiler alert here. I'll tell you about this quilt that I've been working on. So if I didn't say so before, this is Flosstube number 7. It's September 30th, and I'm going to start out by sharing this with you. It was a mystery stitch along by Hands On Design, and I showed a little bit of this to you last time, and at that time I only had, I think, this bottle stitched, and now I have, you know, a little bit more, the pumpkin and the bird and the cauldron. So I had to kind of shift a little bit. I got a little frustrated with it just because of the stitch count of the fabric. I mean, it is a lovely fabric. I really do like it, but these higher count fabrics are just a little more challenging for me, and so I was switching back and forth a little bit to some of my other projects, and but I'm kind of at that point where I'm ready to get back to it. It's been a really fun thing to stitch on, and I always love those stitches that have these different elements that you feel that sense of accomplishment when you get the bottle finished, and then you get the, you know, the pumpkin finished and move on to the next thing. So I think that my the little, I don't know what you call those little tendrils of steam coming from the cauldron, I think those might be just a little off from what the pattern indicated, but I think it'll be just fine. So that stitch along went very quickly. I think every maybe other day for a few days the pattern was released, and oh my goodness, if you follow that hashtag, I can't even remember what the name of it is. Oh, Costume Party Stitch Along. I'll have to put the hashtag in the description below, but gosh, people stitch so quickly. I'm not there yet. I'm still pretty slow, but my goal is to have this finished by Halloween. So it won't be finished, but I want to have the stitching finished by Halloween. So it's nice to have something kind of seasonal to work on. So then I've been working on the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery's Woodland sampler, and my goal has been to complete 1 month each month until I get it finished this year. So last month I was able to meet that goal and get August finished, and that was the little skunk there. So cute. And this month I've been working on the September block, and here's the little hedgehog and the leaf. Got a yellow leaf, some things blowing there, and I got to work on this in Colorado. My family went hiking, and I was very tempted, we were camping, I was very tempted to stay in the camper because my heel has been bothering me. I've been having some pain, and in fact I've had to go to the doctor, and I started physical therapy this week to try and get it back in shape so it's not causing me so much pain. So anyway, I almost stayed at the camper and stitched, but I knew where my family was going to go hike. And it's just a beautiful area that's covered with snow quite a bit of the time during the year. And I really didn't want to miss out. So I said, you know, I'm gonna go and we have our little folding chairs and I'll find a great spot somewhere around and just sit and stitch while you guys go hike. And that way I can enjoy the view. Well, I found some picnic tables there close to the trailhead and I had a wonderful afternoon. It was just so beautiful. The leaves are starting to change in Colorado. It was a place called Lizard Pass, and I think it's on the way maybe up towards Silverton or Telluride. Anyway, it's in the heart of the San Juan Mountains, and it's the National Forest is around, and it was just beautiful. So I stitched a little bit more on this morning and got another leaf done. I think I did the yellow, yeah, I think I did the yellow leaf this morning. And so I still have one more hedgehog and some leaves down here at the bottom. And there might be one more leaf over here, actually. I think there's a leaf there and a little hedgehog there. So I've really been enjoying this, and I'm excited to get it finished. So little by little this year. The next thing I've been stitching on is Stitchography. And it is a, I believe it was a free pattern by Fat Quarter Shop that they released on World Cross Stitch Day 2021. And I actually got on a little kick stitching it lately. So I've gotten a lot more done over on this side. I think I might have had the star finished, but I've done all of this and this down here. So I've just started working on another like blue stitch line right along here. And so I'll need to keep going. So I'm making good progress on it. I really enjoy, I do enjoy this one. So what else do I have here? Okay, I've been working on vintage, it's a Lori Holt pattern, and I didn't pull it here. Let me see if I have it close by. I do have it. It's the Vintage Christmas Sampler by Lori Holt. And you'll notice that mine are spaced out on my cross stitch fabric quite a bit more because I thought that I would cut them apart and make Christmas ornaments with them. So previously I had finished the candy cane, the gingerbread man, the Christmas tree, and the stocking, and I still have to put buttons on, but I have now completed the Santa Claus. Got threads everywhere. So I was watching Java Girl stitches one of her floss tubes, and I noticed that she had changed out some of the colors of her borders, and I really like that idea. So I'm going to do a few in green and a few in red, and I don't know if I will go ahead and finish the ones that I've completed for this year to hang on the tree, or if I will try to do all of them. Haven't decided yet, but I'm kind of leaning towards going ahead and finishing what I have, you know, before Christmas, so that I can be enjoying them on the tree, and then, you know, work on the other ones next year. This is a good travel project for me because I can stitch it in the car while my husband's driving, and I feel like I can glance up and look at the scenery and then, you know, do some stitching as we go along. So I didn't get all of that Santa finished when we were traveling, but the next day when we got back, I was like, okay, I want to have that one finished. So I sat down one morning and just finished it up. So let's see here. What else? Okay, so those are the ones that I've been working on, and I have a couple of new starts, maybe just one new start. So Fat Quarter Shop has been doing Sunflower September. And so I knew that there were some seed packets by Stitching with the Housewives that I really wanted to try. And the sunflower seeds was one of them. So I actually picked up this pattern. It's a PDF that I got. I got the strawberry seeds and the daisy seeds. I love the strawberry and daisy seeds. They all kind of have special meaning to me. I got the daisy seeds because the daisy is kind of a flower that is special to my mom and I. And then the strawberry seeds I got because I used to I used to pick strawberries at a little farm that was close to my house in Kansas. And then the sunflower seeds because the sunflower is the state flower of Kansas. So, and they actually are growing here. They're not the great big sunflowers. They're probably called like black-eyed Susans or something, but I've seen them growing wild around when I drive around here. So this is how far I've gotten. Let's see, I probably should. I was so frustrated last night because I had completed the flower that's right here, and I had actually started it under this E as kind of my reference point instead of that E, and I had to rip the whole thing out, and just the yellow petals that go around. But I was like, good grief. I think because I'm usually watching something, I wasn't paying that close attention. So when I went to go start, you know, the next thing I was going to stitch on, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't do that right. So anyway, I got started. The best thing for me when I make a mistake, if I don't just put it away and not look at it for a while, the best thing for me to do is just as soon as I find it, rip it out and go ahead and get started stitching on the fix. Because if I put it off and wait to take the stitches out or take them out and then don't get restarted, I feel like it's kind of a monumental thing to do. So yeah, I got started on it and I feel much better about it now. I feel like I can move forward. So the other new start that I did was a mystery stitch along by Fat Quarter Shop. Now, I know I've said before, I'm not much of a mystery stitch along kind of person, but I did do the hands-on design costume party, and I did do the hands-on design, is it the Christmas cookie bake from last year. And so when Fat Quarter Shop announced that they were going to be doing a Christmastime mystery stitch along, I really did like the elements that I saw, and I was like, okay, it's not going to be very big, I don't think. I'll go ahead and give it a try. So this was my start, and they used, let's see, Classic Colorworks in their design, and it actually is so beautiful. And if I had Classic Colorworks and an easy way to get it, I probably would have used it because I love that variegation. And I haven't really stitched with hand dyed, except for one other thing that I have hesitated on. But I just used some DMC and some fabric in stash. So the fabric that I was stitching on is 14 count Zweigart in oatmeal. Hey kitty, hang on a sec. She had her claws in my curtains. I had to help her get them out. She was stuck. Girl. So the Christmastime mystery stitch along is by Fat Quarter Shop, and they've actually released several more elements. I believe it releases on Tuesday morning, and think they have a couple more parts to go. So I'll keep stitching on that. I actually have, they're doing a quilt portion to this stitch along, sew along, and I have started that one too. So I just jumped right in. Okay, so my other WIP that I've been working on is a quilt. So I've shared this with you before. It's the Off the Rail pattern by Jaybird Quilts. And I've been sewing this using, gosh, so many different red fabrics just from stash. These darker ones are ones that my mom gave me, and then just ones I've collected. I have some Bonnie and Camille, and I tried to just have a good mix of different values, darknesses, dark and light fabrics, some bigger bold prints like here and here, and then some sweet strawberries. And then the centers I chose, like this is a Bonnie and Camille little heart print, and I think that's a Bonnie and Camille, and some just polka dots, just a variety of, you know, light colored fabrics for the center of the block. So the last time we visited, I had made some mistakes in some blocks, and I decided I was just going to use those 3 or 4 blocks that I'd messed up on, and instead of going this, let's see, this way around the center, I had gone the other way. So I was going to make a runner. I was just going to do the throw size quilt because I was almost finished, and I was like, I was almost finished with the throw size, and I was like, that'll be it. We're just going to move along, because I've been sewing on this a little at a time the 3 years that we've lived here in New Mexico. So I was kind of ready to have it, you know, wrapped up. Well, I got the throw size put together, and my husband came home from work, and I held it up, and I was like, look at this, isn't it great? And I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, do you think it's wide enough? Because right now it is, I think you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 down. And it was, when I showed it to him, it was only 4 across and 5 down. And so I was like, do you think it's big enough for us to like snuggle with on the sofa? And I kind of held it up to him because he's taller than I am. And he was like, it could probably be a little bit longer, and that way we could get it up, you know, to our shoulders and our feet be covered. And I was like, oh. And he was, but you do, you know, what you want to do with it. But he was like, I think we'll use it more if it's, you know, bigger. So I was like, okay. And I just happened to be in the mood where I was like, okay, I got the whole throw size put together. I think I can handle ripping those blocks out now. So I did, and I actually talked to my mom on the phone while I was doing it. And so the time passed by pretty quickly while I was chatting with her, and I had all but one unpicked, and you know, that's the worst part. And then it was easy to sew them together because I had all of these. I had like chain pieced all of these sections right here, and I just had to sew around. So anyway, I went ahead and just made the twin size and got it done, and I am so glad that I did. I really love it. So I've kind of been stalling the last couple weeks because I'm gonna quilt it myself. I don't have a long arm. I just usually quilt on my domestic sewing machine. I have a Bernina, and I've always done straight line quilting, and I was like, oh, you know, I should probably do some free motion quilting on it, because I couldn't decide. I knew I didn't want to just go straight across, back and forth. I didn't think. So I do have a stitch regulator for my Bernina, and I've never used it before. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna get it out, see how it works, practice it. And I've taken some free motion quilting classes before, but you know, you take it, you practice on that square, and then if you don't use it, you just kind of lose the skills that you've developed over the course of a couple days or a couple hours. And so I actually still had a quilt sandwich that I made. It's actually sitting right here under my sewing machine that I'd practiced with an online class, and it wasn't completely full yet. So I got that out and started practicing. And the stitch regulator is supposed to help your stitches be even, you know, the same length no matter what speed you go, because when you push your fabric under the sensor of the stitch regulator, it will speed up or slow down the stitching so that they all end up the same. Well, I was so bad at it that it was not, and I was like, I wonder if this thing is working. But the more I did it, the better I got at it. So I've been talking about it quite a bit with my mom, and in the long run, I think she recommended, why don't you start with something smaller to, you know, a project that you can finish once you've practiced enough, and then have that sense of accomplishment, and then move on to something bigger rather than try such a big quilt. And I think that she's right. And I'm gonna straight line quilt this. I've followed Jackie Gehring. She was one of our guild members, past president of the Kansas City Modern Quilt Guild. And she has 2 walking foot straight line kind of quilting books out, and several classes on different formats that I've kind of followed over the years. And so she's kind of given me, that's where I really learned to do the quilting. And she goes far beyond anything that I've done, and has so many different designs. It's amazing what you can do with your walking foot. But I think with this quilt, I am going to do straight line quilting with my walking foot, and I'm going to start out with kind of a diagonal format, and then kind of see where it goes from there. So I don't think I've shown this to you. Oh, my cat is under my tripod. Oh my goodness. So I have the backing for it. This is the backing. The little dots are almost kind of like little blossoms. And in fact, hey cat, come on now. They are never interested in you unless you're trying to do something. Okay, so this fabric is actually called Blossom, and it's by Christopher Thompson, the Tattooed Quilter, and Riley Blake prints this fabric. Oh, cat, quit. And then this is the binding that I'll use. And I don't know who makes that, but just a stripey little, oh, it's Riley Blake too. By RBD Designs. So we'll see. My mom said, do not get down on the floor and baste this quilt, because that's what I've always done, is tape, you know, the backing down on the floor, and then put the batting on, and then put the top on, and then do the little pin basting. Well, she was like, you know, don't get down on the floor and do that. You can do it on a table. You can do it so many different ways. So we'll see if I've seen board where you use like boards to baste too. So we'll see. I may just, because I know how to do it, get down on the floor and do it again. It's not easy on my knees, but I've got a hardwood floor, and that's just how I know how to do it that way. So okay, I also wanted to show you the Fat Quarter Shop's Christmastime quilt-along. And they aren't doing a big, like a big giant quilt. It's just I'll call it like a table topper. I think it'll be, the finish size is 23.5 by 27.5. And this was kind of the little hint that they gave. And so this is my little Christmas mug here. I'm using some Sweetwater fabric. And then the background fabric is by Darlene Zimmerman. I think it's called Penny's Dollhouse. And I kind of like that it's kind of a scattered, non-directional print. I think the Sweetwater fabric is Holly's Tree Farm. So it's been out for a few years, but a lot of their Christmas lines have similar colorways. And so they mix and match very nicely together. So, oh, and I do have a little finish. One Friday night, I think my daughter was at a football game and I knew I had to go and pick her up. And so, but I really wanted to sew something. And so I was like, what could I sit down and do? And I decided that we needed some fall coasters because we have some like little cardboard ones and they were getting to the point where they really need to be replaced. So I pulled out a charm pack and I'm trying to think what the line is. Oh gosh, I can't remember it right off the top of my head. I want to say it's Birdie something, but it's a Moda designer, and I'll put all the details in the description box because I did not pull that close by. But I made some just easy little coasters with charm packs. And I did some that were kind of on the diagonal. And some, I love the little hedgehogs, some that are, you know, kind of squared off. These are so easy to put together. And there's lots of videos. If you do a little search for charm pack coasters in either YouTube or just Google search, lots and lots of different tutorials will come up. So, and Elizabeth Ann Stitches, I believe, did one. It looks a little bit different than this. I haven't watched the video, but I did notice that in the results, one of her videos came up. I think maybe she has top stitched hers. I might go and watch it and see what she does differently. I think it's really nice to see a nice variety of how people do things, because you can learn so many tips and then kind of pull your favorite ways of doing things or new ways to try things. So some of you are probably familiar with Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch, and she has a coaster tutorial if you want to give it a try. So it was a couple of different videos that I watched to figure out how to do this. Actually, my mom had taught me originally how to make these when I went to go visit her one time. And I actually have it right here. I'll show you. Okay, so this is the one that I made with my mom one year when I visited. And I'll say the thing that I did different this time is when I made these, it's just batting, like a batting scrap underneath there. And the person that I was watching a video, one of the tutorials said that you could put a piece of fabric underneath there so that if you didn't get your, you know, pieces exactly together, if you had like a little gap, that you would just see, you know, matching fabric. So I tried that, but I don't know that it was really necessary. Like this one has a tiny bit of a gap, but you can't really see it. Now, if I wash these, maybe it, you know, when it shrinks, it might have a little more of a gap. So anyway, we'll see. So that's the other sewing thing that I did. Okay, so now I have some new purchases, a little bit of haul to show you. And then we'll talk about some stitchy plans. So another fat quarter shop mystery that I didn't jump in on when it was first released. I don't know if it was, I think it must have been this summer that it was released, but it's called Letters to Santa. And so cute. I love the little postcard effect with the pole and the stamp. And I showed this pattern to my daughter and then showed her a couple other Christmas patterns that Fat Quarter Shop has released this year, and kind of had her pick which one she liked, and this is the one that she picked. So I don't remember, I think it's just a low-cost pattern. I don't think it is a free pattern. But I did order some of the 14 count Ada in chalkboard black, and then I got the thread pack. So I don't know when I'll start it, but I think it would be kind of fun to have it for this year since my daughter picked it out. And you know, she is a junior, and she's kind of to that point where she's reminding me, you know, Mom, I only have a year and a half at home before I go off to college. So I'm like, well, you know, if I want her to enjoy some of these things, I probably should go ahead and get started on them and get them finished. So, okay, now my kitty cat is begging to go outside. So let me stop this. She goes out on our patio. So I can see her from here. I think I'll go let her out. Okay, I'm back. I let her out. I can see her from here. My daughter has spoiled her because she takes her outside when she comes home. She'll do her homework outside on our little patio. We have kind of a courtyard with a little wall. And we typically just take her out there. We don't let her wander by herself because we have like mountain lions and hawks and all kinds of wild animals around here that we wouldn't want to grab her. So anyway, I'll have to keep an eye on her. But she's gotten into this habit of at lunchtime, since I've been home and my schedule is different from when I was teaching full-time last year. I'm taking classes to renew my Kansas teaching certificate right now. And yes, I did save them all for the fall. But anyway, when I go out at lunchtime, she thinks that I should go out and eat lunch with her, or, you know, let her go out on the patio. So anyway, silly cat purchases. Okay. So one thing I picked up from Stitch On in Lawrence was this little thing called Tacky Bill. And it's for your beads. So like the Mill Hill kits that have beads on them, sometimes they can be kind of hard to get a hold of. They roll around, and this is supposed to have kind of a adhesive, kind of sticky bed for them to kind of lie on, so it's easier to get a hold of. And so I do have a couple of Mill Hill kits, a couple in progress. Well, they're not currently in progress. Would you call it a UFO, an unfinished object? Because I haven't worked on it in a while. But I did find it challenging to chase the beads around. So I'm thinking this will help quite a bit. So I've got that. And the other thing I've been waiting on for quite a while. So this is the Traverse quilt. And I'm not sure how to pronounce her name correctly, so I apologize if I don't have it pronounced correctly, but Tara Fawnin is the designer. And I have always admired her eye for color. The colors that she uses, they are so saturated and deep, but she uses so many colors. And some of them are so close to each other. Like here you see like some variation in colors. They're close, but there's a variety even here. And they're all in solids, but I just find them so, I don't know, interesting and beautiful, the variety that she uses. So she announced, and then different quilt shops, online and brick and mortar quilt shops, were offering this as kind of a block of the month. And with that, you get the pattern, you get your fabric each month, and then the designer releases a video that you can access to kind of give you tips and tricks along the way and teach you techniques. And so, I thought that was great because I love learning new things. And I think that video format is really helpful to learn from. So this was supposed to start in July, and I signed up for it. Well, actually, I debated most of July. And then they said it was going to be delayed a little bit. I might have even debated about it in May. You know, it's so funny how you agonize over some of these things. But in the end, I decided, okay, I'm going to sign up for it and, you know, learn some new things. Well, the fabric sat in a shipping container, I believe, on the coast for months. And it finally came a couple weeks ago to Wyndham. And then it went out to the quilt shop. So instead of starting in July, it started, end of September. And so it actually works out really well because I was still traveling in July, and I'll say I'm really eager to get started on it, but I'm also quite intimidated because this is a large quilt and there's so much piecing. And the very first blocks that we're going to be doing are all of these flying geese around here. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's 1,000,000 flying geese. But then I started looking at the fabric and I was like, oh my gosh, it's these too. So I'm going to be making 1,000,000 flying geese to start with. I think next month's block may be this one here, which I think might be a little bit easier. So anyway, it's going to be great. I'm going to learn a lot. We got our first batch of fabric, and the other thing that was very appealing to me was that the fabrics are, I think they're called cross weaves. So here's a look at them, and I'll show you one of them if you've never seen this kind of fabric before, but the colors are just so rich. Let me look at this one as an example. So cross weaves sometimes have one color going in one direction and a different color going the other direction. So you can see a thread right here, maybe. Let me see if I can put kind of some white behind it so you can see it. Yeah, so you can see that that's a blue thread there. But then going, obviously there's some green in there. So the other direction is the green. So here at the top, you can see some of that blue. So anyway, that cross weave really adds a nice detail, texture, and I've never sewn with them before. So that's an added kind of element, is to try something new. So Stitch is the quilt shop that's up in Durango. I have my old local needlework and quilt shop with Stitch On in Lawrence, Kansas. The quilt shop that I'm doing this quilt along with is Stitch, and that one is in Durango. So once a month we'll go up, and they do a nice job of labeling all the fabrics. So anyway, that'll be fun. You can follow along with me and see how I do with all of those flying geese. I don't know if I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I can keep up with it, but I'm gonna try. So the next thing that is a new acquisition for me is courtesy of one of my former students. So one of my first graders sent me at the end of the school year a gift card. It was I think like a Visa gift card. And I hung on to it actually for quite a while because, you know, if I was teaching in a brick and mortar classroom, then I probably would have put it towards something, you know, for my class, maybe add to a classroom library or an electric pencil sharpener, or buy some kind of manipulatives for a center, but since I was an online teacher and I'm not teaching this fall, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something fun for myself. And I thought, oh, a quilt would be a great way to remember that this quilt, you know, these materials and this quilt is kind of something to remember my student by. So she was very creative and fun, and I thought that her and her mom would approve of that. So I purchased this pattern called Day Hike from Stitch On in Lawrence, Kansas. They showed this pattern on their Facebook Live, and I've seen it before and actually always really been drawn to it. It calls for a layer cake, and then you have these little inserts, right, of fabric, and it looked like a pretty easy quilt to put together. It does come in 3 sizes, a baby, a throw, and a twin. So my plan is to do the throw size, which is 54 by 63. So it will be a little, you know, smaller and kind of an easy quilt to use on the sofa. But I had my eye on this line of fabric called Stroll for quite a while. And you know what really drew me in were these purples. I don't really decorate with purple. I don't really have a lot of purple like in my house or anything, but this shade of purple is just so pretty, and it really does make me think of fall. And there's some pinks in there. I love this one. This is probably my favorite print, the acorns. So anyway, I thought, okay, I'm gonna get this, there's some orange. I'm gonna get this layer cake and then be able to make that pattern. So it's just a wonderful thing when you can find a line of fabric and a pattern that will just go so well together. So pretty blues. Browns. You know, I'm not like a huge brown gal, but it just works really well with this. You can kind of see all of the colors. And this fabric is designed by Fancy That Design House. Stephanie is her name. She's had several fabric lines by Moda, but she's one of their, I would say, newer designers. So I went ahead and picked up this acorn fabric for the back. And this fabric here is kind of a low volume that I thought I could use for these inserts here. And then from Pat Quarter Shop, I picked up this for the binding. So I've actually got 3 quilts that I would love to have for the fall. With all the materials and the pattern. So that's one, and I showed you in the last Flosstube was Sweet Fire Road, that I found a pattern for it. And then I've got a layer cake of a basic gray fabric that I've had for a while that I think would make a great fall quilt. Now, am I really going to be able to get 3 fall quilts done and get this one quilted? Probably not. So I have to decide. This would make a great Valentine's, you know, kind of something to pull out around Valentine's. So do I work on the fall quilts and then pull this one out later, or do I get something finished before I start another one? That's what I'm leaning towards, because that's not what I normally do, but it is nice to have a finished quilt. So I think I'm gonna hang on to these and get this one quilted and then go, okay, now you can start a new one. So that that's really exciting to have fabric that you're just so in love with and a great pattern to go with it. So do I have anything else to share with you? I think that's all of like the acquisitions that I have. one thing that I did want to talk about is, you know, when I do my intro, sometimes I talk about the taking time to be creative. And that's what I'd like to kind of talk about next, because that's one thing I always struggle with, is the taking time to be creative. It's really easy for me to let the demands of life, both, you know, spending time with people is really important to me, my family, and you know, we all have jobs and or other obligations that we have that kind of keep us busy, and it's really easy to put off something that you enjoy and, you know, really fills you up. Some of us can really put that off until there's no time for it. And typically, you know, I do my stitching usually in the evening when my family is maybe watching TV, or you know, like when we're traveling, I'll do it in the car, kind of squeeze it in. But taking that time just for me, for no reason other than I enjoy it, sometimes can be a struggle for me. And my schedule has changed a bit this fall because I am taking classes. And one thing that I did last week that I actually was feeling rather guilty about was in the morning after I took my daughter to school, I was sitting down with my coffee and taking a little bit of time to do some cross stitch. And I don't know why I felt guilty. Well, I do know, actually. I think because I always have the feeling that I've got this to-do list of things. I need to do my classwork. You know, there's always chores at home that you need to kind of do, grocery store, you know, doing this, that, and the other. Everybody's got a list of things that they need to do, errands that they need to run, appointments they need to go to, right? So for the week on Monday morning, I was thinking of all these things, but I was like, you know, I really want to just stitch for a few minutes. I was like, there's really no reason why I can't. I can do my classwork in the afternoon rather than do it in the morning. And, you know, a lot of times work can fill the time that you give it, right? So like when I was teaching, if I was working on lesson plans or presentations for my class, you know, you can just keep tweaking until you think it's perfect. And it can just keep going until it's time to go to bed. And so I think housework can be the kind of the same thing. And that's what I would run into a lot of times, is that I would do all the work, do all the chores, and then go, oh, you know, I forgot, I need to take care of this. Oh, ooh, I need to make this phone call. Oh, okay, it's just about dinner time. I better get started on that. And then, you know, our family gets the kind of kitchen cleaned up, and you sit down and, you know, you're kind of too exhausted sometimes to like think through the steps that you need for, you know, a quilt project that you need to figure out the quilt math for or whatever. And so it can be kind of a never-ending cycle of not taking the time for yourself. So this is a long-winded way of saying that all last week I started my day off after I dropped my daughter off and came back home with some stitching, and it kind of sometimes went longer than I was planning on. Like maybe I'd sit for an hour and do a little bit of stitching. But what I found was that I had done something for myself and I had gotten something accomplished instead of dragging my heels through the things that I needed to do that day because I really wanted to, you know, stitch this or work on this. And would I have time for it later? Probably not. I found that the things that I had to do, I was able to fit in to the afternoon. So, you know, once I had my coffee and I did my stitching that morning, I got started on some of the other things that I had to do, and I went a little bit faster. And when I was doing my classwork, instead of looking for 20 different ideas of something that I could do my project on, I looked at a couple and just picked the best one out of the 2 or 3 and got it done. So I just want to encourage you, if you're like I am, where you kind of put off taking the time to be creative, you know, for yourself until you have nothing, no energy left, to see if you can switch things up a little bit. You know, when I was teaching, or when I was substitute teaching, or doing some other things, when I was thinking, okay, when would I fit that in? Because a lot of times we have schedules where we have to be somewhere to work or volunteer, or, you know, take our kids places first thing in the morning, and then we may not be back until the afternoon. So I was like, you know, when would I do that early in the day? So I was thinking, you know, right when I came home would be a good idea. I know my mom, when she comes home from working at her quilt shop, she stops and a lot of times will sit down and have a cup of coffee when she gets home. So I was like, you know, that would be a time that, you know, you could give your kiddos a snack. You could have one, sit down and stitch for 15 minutes and at least have a little nugget of time, a little nugget of creative time. I remember when I was visiting my mom as, you know, an adult a few years back, she'd made dinner, we were cleaning the kitchen, you know, I would always offer to do the dishes and stuff. And she told me right after dinner, she goes, I am going out on the back porch and I am going to read for a little bit. And I will do the dishes in the morning. I do not want you to do the dishes. And I was like, Mom, it's not a big deal. You know, you did a lot of the cooking. Let me do that. And she said, if you are in here doing the dishes, I will feel guilty and feel like I need to get up and help you. And she's a morning person. So she'll get up and she'll work on things for dinner in the morning and stick it in the fridge and just have to heat things up later. But she goes, at the end of the day, I'm ready to like just sit and read for a little bit. And I was like, wow, you can do that. Good for you, Mom. And so, you know, I feel like if we're frustrated about not being able to fit some creative time in, maybe we need to get a little more creative and give ourselves permission to take that time at a time of the day that is a little earlier when we have some energy to do it. Because honestly, like to fold laundry or things like that, you really don't have to have that brain power, and you can fold some clothes like right before bed if you feel like you need to. So anyway, that's kind of a long-winded way of saying that while my schedule is a little bit different right now, I think it's okay to take advantage of that, and to, you know, it makes me think about when my classes are over and I'm working full-time or part-time or whatever again, that you know, I can think about when to fit some of that creative time in. So anyway, I hope you are finding time to be creative and enjoy your cross stitch or quilting or knitting or reading or whatever it is that you enjoy, because I feel like it really will fill you back up and make life more I don't know, interesting and exciting and fulfilling. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to keep stitching on my Woodland sampler and get that September done and start working on October, because that will be here in a day or two. And then I'm going to work a little bit more on my costume party, because I want to have that finished in October. And then I think I'm going to get started quilting on this. So anyway, I will be back and share with you whatever I'm up to very soon. You know, I think if I tell you the plans that I'm going to make, I have in my mind that I can do, you know, a million things, but, you know, we can't do it all at the same time, I guess. So I'll report back and you'll be able to see what I've been working on. So anyway, take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.